Susan Cingari here with 12-year-old Claire Tietgen. Claire, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. For those of my viewers who don't know, 12-year-old Claire has been bullied since she was a little girl. It's a terrible story and one that is very, very important to bring out. So I want to thank you for joining us today, Claire. Tell me a little bit about when the bullying first started.
Well, it actually really started in first grade when I was that outgoing kid who really didn't fit into the cliques, the popular thing that know everything about themselves. So they didn't really like myself as outgoing and more quiet and more outgoing than usual people are.
Did boys pick on you more or girls pick on you more?
When I was little, it was more of both, but I think more of girls because I'm a girl, so it kind of went there.
What kind of stuff did they say to you? Because kids can be really so mean.
Well, they started off with, not liking my personality, so they started with those, and then they started with, you look fat, they don't like your hair, or, pushing me, and, saying naive comments that you shouldn't really hear.
What kind of things did they do to you exactly? You mentioned that they were writing terrible things about you, but I read also too, didn't you get pushed by a boy at one point as well?
Yes, I got pushed and I got punched in the face.
Oh my God, Claire. That's so awful. I can't believe you went through this. What was it like for you as a kid having to deal with this? I mean, you're still a kid, but you've been dealing with it for so many years. Did you ever feel like you were just going to give up?
Yeah, at some point. Then I was that naive kid who was I need to give up. It's a really bad situation. But then there was this other side of me that it's not going to last forever. And 6 years later, it's still happening.
I read that you wrote in your diary at one point, though, that you wanted to die. Is that true, Claire?
Yes, that is true.
So you reached kind of a low point at that time. Was there a particular incident that spurred on that horrible feeling that you were actually maybe contemplating that? That breaks my heart.
Yeah, it started at my old school where I'm currently at now, and they would just still, for many years, they were still picking on me. But then when I started writing in my diary, I switched schools because the bullying has gotten so bad at my other school that I switched schools, and that school, I was a new kid. I didn't know what place, where I should go, and they just saw me as who the other kids saw me. Yeah. And that was where I got punched in the face, and it just went bad. And then I started feeling yes, I wanted to die because it's not right to be in two different schools and two different situations that are coming together.
Yeah. So you felt like you were going to give up then at one point, right?
Yeah, because I didn't have any hope that I switched schools.
Okay. Well, let's move on to some new news, because that was the old Claire, as we all know from this many news interviews we've seen of you, but now we have the new Claire. So tell me about the new Claire.
Well, the new Claire is happy, many friends, still getting picked on, but she has her head up and she has more confidence than I think she have ever had.
The reason why you've been able to overcome bullying is in great part to you being able to compete in the sport of MMA. So tell us how you were introduced to the sport of MMA.
Well, first, that was that situation that I was 11 at that time, and more kids get into sports and acting and doing all these classes, and I was like, what if I could get into a sport that I really, really loved and everybody could be friends with me because they love that sport? And one night, me and my dad were watching the show, and it was all about fighting and just all this acting and stuff. And I really liked it. So I was after the movie, I told my dad that I wanted to try boxing at the time.
Okay.
And so the next day, my dad looked on the laptop and searched up boxing gyms. And he found one called Brass Boxing by Austin Ford, and he called Austin and told a little bit about me, about our family, And Austin was like, absolutely, like very minimum second. So.
What was it like for you after you had your first lesson with Austin? Because I read that you felt like you belonged there, like you were finally free.
Yeah, I did. Because it was that one place that no one said any mean comments. They were all happy, joyed, respectful, knew what I was saying about boxing and MMA. And I loved it. I knew that there was something missing from my life, and I found it that day.
What did Austin say to you after he first saw you in that first lesson? Because it's a great story, so you have to share that with our viewers.
Well, he was saying all these comments about how you were bullied and how life is going to get better. But at that time, he was telling about wrestling. And he was like, I've never seen this girl this age. And he was basically talking to my dad, but I was standing there and hearing it. I've never seen this 11-year-old girl, go against my son and kind of beat him. And she had so much strength and power that she could have a future.
How did that make you feel?
It made me feel really happy that someone could say those awesome comments about me, because every day I've been hearing negative comments.
Now, I read that you have 9 wins. Is that correct? So what does it feel like for you when you won your first match?
It was awesome because I was fighting mostly boys at that time, and the boys had like insane reactions. And then also seeing all my family and friends up on the stands just cheering and thanking me for doing an awesome job, and my coach being there saying awesome comments. And then after, I ran over and hugged my dad, and I said, finally, I could win and I could beat someone and I could take control of my actions instead of someone taking control of mine.
What are the other changes between the old Claire and the new Claire since you found MMA?
Well, that she has more confidence than she has. She has more ability to win. She has more friends than she had. And she just is a new person. You can't even tell that she was bullied until you hear her story.
What a great answer, Claire. Also, I read that you were rocking it out at Valentine's Day this year. So tell our viewers a little bit about that story, because that's a good one. I like to hear that.
Yeah, I love that part. I was, of course, I told you earlier that I was this cocky kid who didn't really care how I dressed, or I was that outgoing person. And this happened a couple weeks ago, that I was at a Valentine's dance with my whole grade, and we were playing music and dancing, and I'm, of course, the outgoing person as I am. I was dancing like crazy. I didn't care what anybody thought of my dance moves. And the girls back then were just talking and doing a little side dance, but I was really rocking it out like the boys were. And then at that point, I was like mumming the words and saying the words, and they were really like, I call them the century music, but it's like dance music and rap music and stuff. And I was saying it, and they were like, boo, you don't know the words because you're a girl, and all of this mean comments along there. And then I danced some more, and they had a photo booth with a lot of these accessories. And they had necklaces, and they kept throwing necklaces at me because they didn't like I was there, and they didn't like me as myself.
Oh, Claire, that's awful. That's terrible. So you're still facing this at school after all this? You're still having to deal with this?
Yes.
Wow.
But I kept putting myself out there. I kept fighting for me instead of crying after one word. I kept fighting for me and dancing, and I didn't really care what they said at that moment.
Good for you, Claire. You've come a long way. I want to send a special thanks out to Shonda Maloney at the UFC. Because of Shonda, this story has gained national attention.
She spent the last 5.5 years being bullied at school. She's inspired by Ronda Rousey. She's been practicing MMA for less than a year, and she's undefeated, and she's beat every boy that she's competed against.
Claire was fortunate enough to go to UFC 183 with her dad, Charles. Claire, how did you find out you were getting a chance to go to UFC 183?
Oh my goodness, I was so excited because I was watching those fights on TV, costing a lot of money, but having the experience to watch them and the blood leaning on you and all the spit and all of the drama that's going on and all of the head bumping, and it was really cool how they were walking out and I could high five them and they would stop, take their autograph, take a picture before their seconds, minutes, or fight.
So Claire, you got to meet a lot of fighters at UFC 183. Tell me about that experience.
It was really cool because I was actually being there and getting to experience what many fans get to experience every week. There's a fight.
So any famous fighters that you met that you were impressed to meet? I think I saw that you might have met Spider and Forrest and a couple others. Who else?
Demetrius Johnson, Conor McGregor, Silva, Diaz, and also Misha Tate, and other fighters, and a lot of celebrities.
And what about, there's a famous singer you got to meet as well. Tell me about that experience.
Yes. I got to meet Demi Lovato, which it was really weird because Dana White, his manager, pointed her out to me, and she was like, oh, I want to meet her, oh my god. Like, I was the famous person, and she was me. And I was like, oh, okay, be calm, here, hold on. And then she took me over, and I was like, hi, I'm Claire Tietgen. And she was like, oh my god, I love your story, and all these good things. I was like, I love your music, and I was like, can I get an autograph and a picture? And she was like, of course. And I was like, did I mean to ask that? I didn't want to be rude or anything, but I just had to get something. So.
And there's an especially special story about your favorite fighter, Ronda Rousey, and Dana White making a phone call so that you could speak to Ronda. So let's talk about that because we have some video of that as well.
That I had you watch that video on YouTube. She's standing right here with me. I know you wanted to meet her. I'll put you on the phone with her first, and then you guys can meet later, all right? All right, hold on.
Hello?
Yes, it was really shocking, actually, that Dana actually called Ronda that very second that we met and talked. And she was like, hey, Ronda, I was that girl that you seen on that video, and what he said. And I was like, oh my god. I was like literally shaking, and I screamed a couple times. She was like, hi, Claire, I love your video, especially the jiu-jitsu part. And I'm like, oh my god, behind the speakerphone so she wouldn't hear me. I was like listening to her, and she was like, I would love for you to come out here and eat chicken wings with me, and she said even wrestle her.
Wow.
Which I thought that was very surprising.
So rumor has it you may be meeting her soon, is that correct?
Yes, that is true.
Can you tell us anything about that, or is that hush-hush?
Well, I can tell you a little bit that we will meet. She wants to wrestle with me. She wants to eat chicken wings with me. And she also wants to go to dinner with me.
I think the puppy likes her too. Claire, what would you like to tell other kids who are like you, who are being bullied? What would you like to tell them?
I would say if you aren't in a sport that you absolutely love, then you have friends that care about you, get into a sport or get into a passion that you love. And also keep your head up, change your life before it ends in a bad place, and just tell someone, because I waited until the last minute to tell themselves. So tell them right exactly. Who cares? Tell a teacher, tell the principal, tell anybody who's by you, not a complete stranger, but tell someone that you have been bullied that moment so they can tell you what to do or what to tell your parents or what to help yourself.
Yeah, that's such an important message, Claire. Thank you. I also read, or maybe it was your dad that told me, that you're now getting fan mail or letters from other children across the U.S. and maybe even across the world that are reaching out to you, have similar stories. Can you share any of that with us?
Yes, I can share that my old friend, Cameron, we were friends because we used to go to the same summer camp. And she just reconnected to me a couple days ago and saying that I read your story, it moved me, and I would love to catch up and reconnect. And then also another one, Sophia. She was in 7th grade at the time. I was in 4th grade, and we were at my fall festival, and I was chatting and being like I don't care, like being myself. And she was like, pick me up because I want to see how strong you were. And I picked her up, and she was like, wow. And I was like, how much do you weigh? And she was like 90 pounds. And she was like, that's easy to lift. And then we kept talking, and then she sent me a letter a couple days ago telling me that she's a freshman at East now. And so it's really moving because she also read my stuff and she also remembered the time that we talked. And that was a few years ago, so.
Claire, it doesn't sound like you have much free time because you're very busy with MMA, but what do you like to do in your free time?
I like to hang out with my family. Of course, I have this weird obsession that every day after school, if it's not too cold, I jump on my trampoline for 4 hours each day and like maybe 4 hours a day and 2 times a day or something like that. I just love to get energized, and it's just amazing, and I love hanging out with my family, laughing, just being a kid while I can.
You sound so mature for your age, Claire. Do you think that you're going to go into MMA later on and become a pro if you get the opportunity to?
Yeah, I think I will, but you never know. The future, it's not here yet. It's coming, so you never know. My future job is, of course, wanting to be a lawyer because I'm good at debate. But you never know. Maybe I'll go to the Olympics. Maybe I'll do UFC for professionally, but you never know.
I think you'd make a great lawyer, Claire. You're very well spoken and you're very smart. Before we go, I want to ask you, is there anybody you want to thank today?
Yes, I want to thank Shonda. I want to thank Austin Ford and his wonderful family and the gym. And I want to thank all my friends, even my best friend, Savannah. We've been best friends since kindergarten. She's been through that with me. And I want to thank my family and everybody that's been there with me. And just my whole family that supported me through everything.
I want to thank you, Claire. This has been a very inspiring interview. You are an amazing young lady, and I know that your story is going to reach the hearts and souls of many young women and men out there and touch the lives of many families that are going through this issue. So thank you so much for honoring me with this interview, and I wish you good luck, Claire.
Thank you. You too.